Christmas time. The only time of year where it's ever acceptable to wake me up at 6 in the morning for something. And the time where setting up decorations outside is absolutely useless because there's always that one neighbor who has lights so intense they could give you third-degree burns. But I want to take this a couple of years back to a Christmas that I think at least a few of you watching this should know. It's somewhere between the start of the 2000s to the early 2010s. You run down to the Christmas tree to open up your presents, only to be greeted by a hell incarnate. It's a Furby. You asked for a Furby, you poor soul. Now, obviously, even to this day, Furbies are being produced and sold, except I feel like the earlier generations of Furbies are the freakiest. I mean, I remember that I used to own a second-gen Furby and a Furby Boom with a gap of about just under 10 years between their releases, and I can easily tell you which one of these I would prefer to be staring at me in the middle of the night. But why am I talking to you guys about Furbies? I mean, there couldn't possibly be any horror game based on them, right? Right. TattleTail is a game that was released in the year 2016, and not long after its rise to becoming a really great Mascot horror game held among the likes of FNAF and Bendy and the Ink Machine, it seemingly just vanished and was completely forgotten about, even when only about a year later, the devs released a free DLC for the game called the Kaleidoscope. In the game, you play as a young kid who decides to sneak down to the basement a few days before Christmas to open up their presents early, finding out that they've gotten a TattleTail. Or, my bad, a baby talking TattleTail. However, it's not long after this that the game takes a turn when Mama, who we'll talk about later on, begins to give chase to the player, and the game then follows the child's attempts to just make it to Christmas. Meanwhile, more and more deranged shit goes off each and every night. And because of this gameplay loop, it was kind of criticized as just being another Five Nights at Freddy's clone, because any game that has 5 nights of gameplay and takes place at night is immediately a FNAF clone, apparently. However, in actuality, the game follows this really unique storytelling vibe instead of just the 5 nights gameplay that it's been held up to. But it's better if I just show you the game itself rather than just talking about it. Without further ado, let me attempt to revive a seemingly forgotten game. Starting off the game, we land ourselves on December 20th, 1998, 5 days before Christmas. And waking up in our room, we can see that our main task is to go and open up our Christmas present early. Coming out into the hall, we are immediately tipped into the vibe of the game with this deep, grumbling ambience. One which isn't too far from the whirring of devices like fridges or water pipes, which are pretty normal things in a house's soundscape to have at night. However, in the mind of a kid, could easily be indistinguishable from something malicious. While making our way through the hall, we are told that sound is a very important part of the game's mechanic, and that we probably shouldn't be making too much of it. This isn't important to us right now, but will be later on in the game. And while coming through this hallway, we can look through the translucent glass of the living room door and see our Christmas tree, covered in lights, which adds this calm glow to the environment. Kind of just this beacon of calm in the harsh environment of the dark house. And speaking of harsh environments, coming down into the basement, the ambience grows louder, as well as everything just gains this really concrete-y, empty, dusty basement look. I mean, it's just a empty basement. It's gonna be creepy no matter what. But making our way to the other side, we find our Christmas present waiting for us on the table. Opening it up, we can find TattleTail himself, and after picking him up, we are then shown his 3 main mechanics of battery life, food, and grooming. And no, not the type that you'd find your childhood Minecraft YouTuber doing. This first night is essentially just a learn the ropes tutorial kind of night. We don't have any threat with us, and it's mainly just to learn how to look after TattleTail, as well as just showing us where everything is and introducing us to the sound mechanic. Which, speaking of, coming down into the basement, a light pops, and we are introduced to the fact that TattleTail knows when he's in the dark, and he is not a big fan of it at all.
It's dark!
If he's left in the dark for too long, or well, if you are stood with him in the dark for too long, he will just start screaming his tiny little... I actually don't know what animal he's meant to be, but he screams his little head off. This also isn't too important to us right now, but it will be important in later nights. But after putting TattleTail back in his box, we can take note of a small egg next to the box. which we can just collect these throughout the game. These are gift eggs and are used to unlock a small secret at the end of the game if you manage to collect them all. On the way back to our room, we pass by a phone in the kitchen. When it starts ringing, we get a notice from the game telling us not to pick it up. However, if we do, we then get a small segment of this strange grinding noise, which will become important to us later. Apart from that, there isn't really much left to do here apart from collecting a few gift eggs, so we go to bed. Waking up the next morning, we can hear a weird thumping noise and we're told to investigate. The house is a bit darker than the last time and we can notice small changes such as different doors being open, different lights are on and off, and it's a small touch that I like about this game, and it shows that people do actually live in this house. I feel like it's a small detail that could go completely unnoticed or is most of the time not acknowledged in other games. And it just kind of shows how much love the devs put into this game. But we once again come down into the basement and we find that our washing machine is clinking around and just generally not looking like what a washing machine should look like when it's on. And after opening it up, we find TattleTail inside, who is heavily in need of charging, and my god, it's time to get used to the blabbering machine that you now hold in your hand. For a large majority of the game, you will find yourself asking why this kid couldn't have just waited until Christmas, because at any point in time whilst you're holding him, TattleTail can just rat you out by blabbering his little tiny heart out. If he even has one, because I'm convinced that he doesn't. This blabbering will go on even if all of his needs are met, which means that later on in the game, this alone can take the section from being about like a normal level of stress to about 10 times that amount whilst you're holding him. Because when I say that sound is important in this game, it is really fucking important. And this questioning on if the kid has what's coming to them is only amplified by the fact that immediately after this, we are then told to have some fun by breaking a vase in the basement. Like, the more we learn about this kid, the more I just feel like they have what's coming to them. I mean, they're opening up their Christmas presents early, now they're breaking their parents' belongings. Like, this is not a good kid. But after walking into this room with a oddly ominous red light, we can take note of this flashlight, which you're gonna need soon, since after breaking the vase, the lights in the basement turn off, and then we are then introduced to the shake light, an object which can be both your savior and your downfall if used incorrectly. And that light level detection that we were talking about before comes into play, as if you don't shake the light enough, which, by the way, that also makes noise, then you know the gist, TattleTail will begin to scream at you. But turning the corner, we get our first glimpse at the game's main antagonist, Mama, who we don't know about just yet, but from the fact that she's able to alter our light when we look at her, we already know that she's gonna be a problem. However, after this encounter, we can simply just wrap up TattleTail and go back to bed. But not before TattleTail unveils a small speech about our antagonist.
Hey, time for tea. Big on. TattleTail, go home. Mama's scary.
TattleTail is scared of this Mama character, and this is only amplified as the nights go by. On the third night, we awake to yet another noise. This time, it's the same noise from the phone calls. Grabbing our flashlight, we go to investigate, now finding the whole upper floor of the house to be completely dark, and the only light comes from the basement doorway. Going downstairs, the noise gets louder and louder as we begin to find a trail of gift eggs leading to none other than Mama herself. Next to her is a VHS tape, which after inserting the tape, we get this short section of a story, which also kind of tells us how to deal with Mama.
The children thought that Mama would never find them as long as she couldn't see them. Turn the page. But Mama could still hear the children. The pitter-patter of their little feet led Mama right to them. Turn the page. The Then Mama found the children, every last one, and put them right back to bed.
Mama can hear our movements, and while she hunts us throughout the night, we must make sure to stay away from her if we're doing anything that might make some kind of loud noise, such as shaking our light, running, or just holding TattleTail at any point in time. Speaking of which, we can go upstairs to find TattleTail surrounded by a mess which he has presumably made, and after picking him up,
Me love playtime with you. Show me Mama.
he asks us to bring him to Mama, which is kind of starting to give me mixed signals here. Are you afraid of her or not, TattleTail? But we then bring him down to the basement only to find out, of course, Mama is missing. And with TattleTail switching to a very visibly frightened demeanor, our task changes to us just wrapping up TattleTail. But we now know that she is around here somewhere, and something is clearly wrong with these things. I mean, how does TattleTail even get out of the box and move around? Why is he able to move around in the first place when he's meant to be shut off and in a box? I mean, we didn't even question how he got in the washing machine, and why is he so scared of Mama anyway? We don't get long to think on these questions, as on our way back to clean up TattleTail's mess, we get our first encounter with one of Mama's hunts, with the ambience shifting to this stressful tone and our flashlight shutting down completely with a hint telling us that Mama makes a grinding noise when she's nearby. If you hear it, stay quiet. Which on our own is a pretty simple and easy to do task. Just don't run or shake your light when you can hear her and you'll be fine. As well as being able to tell where she is by her loud grinding noise, we can also find her from her glowing red eyes. If you look at her for too long, then she'll shut off our light, but she'll only ever really attack you if you make too much noise. Normally announcing before she'll do so, or if you're very close to being dead by one of her voice lines, which you'll hear every now and then. After a while of her hunting you, she disappears, and we're free to go and clean up the mess, before going to bed. And after the stressful first encounter with Mama, the calming light of the tree in its music box is a very needed shift. This night, we wake up to the sound of TattleTail's blabbering, and our task informs us that he is outside. Picking up our flashlight and going out to investigate, we can see that the back door is now open. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but you are actually able to knock on your mom's door. However, apart from getting a small yawn if we knock enough times, she'll never come out or do anything else. And if you're being chased by Mama whilst you knock on the door, it will open. Only for you to be jump scared by Mama and get an achievement named "What Did You Expect?" Because really, what did you expect to happen? Coming into the garage, we can see that, great, there's two of them now, and they want to play hide and seek. For each time that the yellow TattleTail hides, we must survive increasing amounts of time with Mama hunting us, which is now doubly stressful with the fact that we have TattleTail with us. After he is hidden, the task will give us a small hint as to if the yellow TattleTail is upstairs or downstairs. However, his giggles kind of give him away as to where they are, with the first spot being under the Christmas tree. And it's at this point in the game where we begin to see how important it is to keep TattleTail's needs filled up, as you really don't want TattleTail screaming and demanding whatever he needs when Mama is hunting you. This time, instead of 30 seconds, we have to survive a whole minute against Mama whilst the TattleTail goes and hides. And that stressful ambience starts to feel more and more stressful as TattleTail's needs slowly drip down to the point where I nearly died at the last second. Because this little fucking goblin creature doesn't know how to stay quiet for more than 3 seconds. And that's not even a joke, just listen to this.
Give me a treat. Give me a treat. Give me a treat. Give me a treat.
Finding the yellow tattletale for the second time, we can find them in our bedroom, and this time we have to survive a minute and a half. And we even get snitched on by the yellow tattletale, which makes me question whose side these things are on. They don't like Mama and they're scared of her, but also they snitched to her about you. So, who really knows?
Hi, Mama. In the bedroom. Okay. Bye-bye.
But after surviving this segment by mere seconds, we make our way down to the basement to find the yellow tattletale for the last time. And if you thought the last part of Tattletale Babblings was bad, listen to this one. Although I will admit that while the babblings of Tattletale are a big hindrance to us whilst Mama is after us, they are kind of funny at times. Who am I fucking kidding? They're annoying as shit! He never shuts up, I hate it! But after finding the friend for the last time in the place where we originally found Mama, we are given a VHS tape and are told to go play it in our room. After doing so, we can find a set of cameras which for right now are completely dark. But after pressing play, we get this small advertisement for the baby talking Tattletale toy.
Tattletale, that's me. Nom, 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 nom.
Mama's coming.
Playtime for Eve.
As the ad progresses, more lights go dark and bodies begin to appear of who we can assume to be members of the Waygetter Company. Which the Waygetter Company is just who produces Tattletale toys. And if we go back to before we played the ad, we can input a few codes that we get from the end of the game. By collecting all of the gift eggs, we can receive a small note from TattleTail, which reads, Tattletale code 9918530. Tattletale was born in delightful Descent, Illinois on the 2nd of February 1998. Each Tattletale is handmade with love in our US facility. P.O. Box 41758, Descent, Illinois 60420. And for each of the sets of numbers on this note, we can input those into the VHS's cameras. The first of which being 9918530, which shows us a blue screen reading Waygetter next to 3 red buttons labeled Abort, as well as Mama being stood next to it all. Secondly, if we use the code 41758600420, we can find a room full of other Mama Tattletales with one of them turning around. And finally, 22598, which, by the way, I share a birthday with fucking Tattletale of all characters, found that out just now. Inputting this code will show up a door with 04 prototyping on it. However, that is all that we have to see here, and ending off the VHS tape, we can go back to sleep once more. Christmas Eve, a day filled with anticipation among many. And if I get this video out on the day that I want it to, then that means that many of you watching this are either celebrating with family or friends, or are just passing the time till the big day. For our character, however, we are abruptly wakened by Tattletale, who states,
Wake up, wake up, wake up. 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 You're up. We're having a party for Mama. Come help us.
We are then tasked with bringing Tattletale to the basement, which we must do so through the front of the house due to our regular door now being locked. Coming to the basement, we can find 2 more versions of Tattletale, and after setting him down, we are then instructed to go and find more Tattletales, starting with the one by the Christmas tree. On the way there, we are intercepted by Mama, who we'll find for this night is not messing around anymore and becomes a lot more active than with the other nights. After picking up the yellow Tattletale from under the tree, she returns as we slowly make our way back to the basement to play some of our other Tattletales, who then decide that they want even more Tattletales and we have to go over to the garage and just Generally, the vibe of this night is just a massive build-up, and the more we gather items, the more we begin to question what's actually going to happen here, because it's definitely not going to be a party, I can tell you that. And after finding our second TattleTail, we'll find this one to be completely empty on food, and it immediately begins to blabber on about it. And with Mama deciding to come back at this very moment, this got me killed on my first playthrough. And at that moment, I found out that for the preparations, if you die, you have to start all over again, which is unlike the other nights where it'll just put you back where you were for the most part. So the stakes were even higher tonight, and much like Mama, I was no longer playing around. But after successfully bringing the second TattleTail down to the basement this time, we are then told to go and pick our TattleTail back up as he begins to list off the decorations that we need. Starting off with cupcakes, then to take the lights off the Christmas tree, and then candles. Each time bringing them back to the red carpet, only to... Oh, this isn't a party. This is a fucking ritual. I just hate it when my Furbies decide to make a demonic ritual in my basement. Placing a candle in front of the TattleTails and then lighting them individually, we are then tasked with rewinding the tape, where after a short loading screen, thank fuck, we are put into completing the ritual, one which should hopefully get rid of Mama. The TattleTails all begin to start chanting in unison as the ad plays through the VHS, our current task being to just survive.
TattleTail, that's me.
Mama has stolen the candles, and to get them back, we need to go around breaking vases like we did at the start of the game. But only when it's safe to. They are randomly selected, and if you die and you have to do them all over again, they'll be in completely different vases, meaning that a lot of the time you have to break every single vase in order to get them all, as each vase has a chance to have one of the 5 candles in them. And I will be completely honest when I say that this segment of the game took me a lot longer than it needed to. And that is not a fault of the game at all, I am just incredibly impatient. But after getting all of the candles back, we replaced them in front of the TattleTails and relight it to continue the ritual.
Mom.
And with one final move, we destroy the tape and banish Mama. Before going to bed, we have the option to pick up the phone one last time, and if we do...
This is
wish you and your family the best this holiday season and a happy new year. Information call 1-800-21 Happy Holidays.
Instead of the usual garbled nonsense, it's what seems to be an announcement for the Waygetter Company wishing us a happy holiday, which is a slight bit of sad irony after what hell we've just gone through. But we then go to bed for the final time. Waking up on Christmas morning, the house is quieter than it ever has been. It's now daytime and we can go out into the front garden just to be in the sun. The oppressing nature of the night and Mama is gone and we're now free to just enjoy Christmas morning. However, the game has a slight melancholy to it, as even though it's Christmas morning, our mom or any parent at all is nowhere to be found. However, we can find 2 chairs waiting for us by the Christmas tree as that calming tune plays to us like it always has. Our final task: to open our present. Wait, let's take a moment to talk about our protagonist here. Looking around at the photos in our house, we can find photos of 2 kids, presumably we are one of them and the other one is our sibling. Our mother and father also make appearances in these photos, along with a cat, which is said by the devs to have died of natural causes at some point, and it's implied that we either have a dog or had a dog in the past due to the doghouse outside. We don't know a lot about our father, seeing as we can only see him in what is presumed to be this photo of our mother, and also the fact that it's only Mom's room and not the parents' room implies that the dad is either dead or is divorced. And for our mother, I want to know how deep of a fucking sleeper she is. No matter how hard or how long we knock the door for, she just never comes out. No matter how much noise is made in the house or whatever kind of commotion goes on, she never comes to investigate, and her only dialogue line is her yawning. The point is that this kid is just completely alone for whatever reasons it may be, and it's something that I just wanted to point out due to how melancholy this final scene is. After everything that this kid has gone through, he still has to wake up on Christmas alone. But at least he has this present to open. The ritual has failed and Mama is still out there, presumably finding some other family to torment after this. This is of course only the normal ending, one which you only get if you didn't collect all of the gift eggs. If you did manage to collect all of the eggs, however, you get to open up the present to reveal TattleTail himself, who rewards us with a small note, which I mentioned earlier, and a golden flashlight. We then make our way over to our mother's room to presumably wake her up, and everything ends okay and the child isn't alone after all. And after this, everything just seems to be okay. This is of course until the free DLC, which tells us that this ending is canon, because if not, then the kid's fucking dead, you know? But I won't be talking about the DLC today. TattleTail is a game that was unfortunately lost to time, and that's just kind of the way the internet works. Things get popular and eventually things die out, and that's just the case of TattleTail, where it just happened to be one of those games. Throughout the years, there have been many candidates for the Mascot horror genre. I mean, just off the top of my head, we have Baldi's, Bendy, Amanda, Mr. Hops, and even FNAF, each with their own relative successes and failures, and over time, each have had their own time in the spotlight before passing the torch to the next game to become popular, and TattleTail just happened to be one of them. The game is wonderful to play and is beatable in around an hour depending on how many times you die. The game doesn't cost much and the DLC is completely free, so I heavily suggest you go and try it for yourself. But for now, that'll be all. I won't be posting a video next week just due to how busy the last week of the year is normally, and I won't have enough time to make a full video. However, you may be able to catch one more stream from me over on my Twitch before the end of the year, which the link to that will be in the description, but Thank you so much for watching me talk about this old game, and I'll see you next year. Happy holidays, and bye-bye.